All right, all right, all right, all right. Good morning, everybody. Lebang is so full of beans this morning. She started singing in the corridor before we even started the show. Beautiful. I like that. I love nothing more than early morning enthusiasm. It's the best.
Hallelujah.
And so hard to find.
I know. Especially, so what's the temperature check for this morning, Ryan? Yesterday you said it was 1 degree. What do we got today?
It's 3 degrees today.
Oh,
A frosty 3 degrees.
Slightly better.
Slightly better.
Mm-hmm,
Still wearing jackets, though. Still wearing jackets.
Listen, we're going to be wearing jackets for a long time. I mean, just put August out of your mind in terms of like warming up. It doesn't happen. People have this idea that August's better than June and July. Isn't
so windy. You literally feel like you're in Cape Town the whole time because your body's just moving unwillingly. It's that windy in August.
All right, let's just talk to Jean, who obviously she's got a crab up her ass about the fact that we didn't start at exactly 6 o'clock this morning. I wonder why they can't start at 6. What is the problem? So you just want to explain, like, Ryan, it's not like we are trying our best to mess people around every morning. We start at different times. None of us are here on time, any of that shit. There's like a bunch of stuff that sometimes just if we try and make sure we're ready to go by 6, and often and most times we are, but occasionally there's just a couple of things that need doing that are of a technical nature that we can only do like at the last minute. And I promise you we're trying. But Jean, thank you for that feedback. We will ignore it completely and move on.
On behalf of all of us here at Cliff Central, Jean Andrews, we would like to formally apologize for messing up your entire day by being 2 minutes late. Our bad, our apologies. Forgive us.
I think we do it on purpose, though, just to keep everyone in check.
Sure.
Keep the audience on their toes.
Lebang is the official PR department. So there we go. That's from now on. Please refer any query to her. All right.
PR@cliffcentral.com.
Be careful. You're going to wake up like Gareth this morning with 1 million emails in his inbox.
Oh, well, is that a bad thing?
How did this happen? I checked my email last night at 10 o'clock and, Dory sends me a running order for the next day so we can look at stuff. So I opened up my email this morning. There was nothing at 10 o'clock. So I thought, oh, well, she'll send it. Woke up this morning, turned on my email at like, I don't know, 1:45 or whatever. There's fucking million emails. There's 1 million emails. I switched on the machine. I turned on the had a lot of mail. I had letters and things. It was like suddenly everybody at midnight last night had decided to send me an email. Don't these people sleep?
A lot can happen between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Like a lot of people come alive during those hours. Yeah. They suddenly want to work. When we're sleeping, they doing other stuff.
I used to do that. I used to schedule most of my. So I check my email first thing in the morning and last thing in the evening before I kind of start heading to bed or making supper or whatever that is. And in between, I don't have it on my phone, but I used to send a whole lot of emails like late at night and especially on weekends, if I wasn't doing anything on the weekends, then I'd work at night, right? Because you feel like you're being productive, but it's the most horrible thing you can do to other people because they're actually trying to like live their lives. They've got, families and friends and people they want to have sex with and all that kind of stuff. And you're sending them like work emails on a Saturday at like 8 at night.
There's nothing more annoying.
Who's going to be checking that? And I mean, if you've got your email enabled on your phone, which most people do, that is it's actually very rude.
It really is. It doesn't make you come across as this hardworking individual who loves what you do. It just makes you come across as a bit of a loser. Just schedule the mail for 6 a.m. on Monday morning.
Do people schedule emails?
I personally do.
Thing?
Absolutely.
How do you schedule emails?
Instead of clicking send, you click that downward arrow and you select the date and the time that you would like the email to arrive. Do not hit send at 2 a.m. on Saturday, Charles.
But you see, I see emails as a completely different thing because it's not like a WhatsApp where it goes through instantly. I'm like, it'll just sit in the inbox and whoever will get to it whenever they get to it.
No, Ryan.
So that's why I just send emails.
No. see, this is why you and I, we're not Machiavellian enough. I mean, this is where women are, and there's a lot of. I'm not saying this is true for Lebang because I don't think she has this in her, but a lot of women are very passive aggressive. So they'll schedule the emails so that you get them at a specific time, so that you know they were working. Whereas you and I will send emails when we're working, right? So we won't think about it more than that. But it's not just women. There are also some men who are very...
Just people.
very
some people are just weird like that. Like, if you work in a very toxic work environment where you've got a shitty manager, your shitty manager is most likely going to be sending you something at 3:45 just to remind you that look how hard he or she is working, and this is the standard that we're setting, and here at this company, this is what we do. And you're just like, bro, can I just smoke my joint? Like, what's happening? I just want to get high.
It's all about them trying to give a certain impression. Now, I mean, I've never used that scheduled email thing, and neither has Ryan, clearly. But maybe we should, because maybe that's why people are, I don't know, not replying to us fast enough. I'll tell you something though, and I had this conversation. Lebang and I were sitting in a meeting, in fact, on Monday. I do not understand how people can let emails build up and build up and build up and not reply to people. I really don't get it. It drives me up the wall. It's like, it's wild.
It's actually like the equivalent of, it's just rude. It's rude. And worse, like in terms of a professional environment, if I send you something today, at the very least acknowledge it. If you can't respond to it immediately, say, hey, I see you, I'll get back to you. But most people just let things sit in their emails without even checking for weeks and weeks, and it piles up.
Or they do that thing that everybody in corporate South Africa does, where they copy like 25 other people so that it's not their responsibility, you know.
Sure.
I leave emails behind if I'm not sure what to do with them for at least a day or two. I try not to leave it for more than a week, but I start feeling bad. I mean, there are 2 or 3 that I'm looking at right now that I'm like, oh God.
And you're like, damn. You know what the really nice thing about working with Rena is that Rena teaches you like email etiquette. You know this, Gareth. If you haven't responded within 24 hours, then the window is closed. At the very least, within that 24-hour window, say, hi, I see you, I'll get back to you, or thank you so much for contacting me, blah, blah. But to just ignore it is like, it's super rude. And funny enough, the more and more people you work with, the more you realize how common this is. People generally don't have email etiquette at all. They're just chilling, minding their business. In like 4 weeks, oh, hi, sorry, I've just been going through so much. I had a midlife crisis. Anyway, I'm back. How, sir?
There we go. And look, I mean, I do feel like a hypocrite sometimes, because there'll be 1 or 2 things that I'm not sure what to do with. You know, like these emails where you really should get back to this person, but it's going to mean scheduling this whole day thing that you don't really want to do. So you just kind of let it lie there for a little bit, let it boil and bake, and kind of get into and bask in the cold as it is at the moment. But yeah, anyway, listen, I think none of us are perfect, but you got to try. All right, so here are some questions. So first of all, Skip says, Gareth, are you horny? Are you yucks? You have mentioned sleeping with people on a few episodes lately, or have GC just typed face green smiling. You know, that is called projection, Skip. And what it is you are noticing certain things. Psychologically, there's a term for this. It's called projection, and it's because you're horny and you're looking for. So you're listening to everyone, and all you're picking up is those signals. So don't you push your stuff onto us. We're here trying to have
maybe he just wants to be horny with a group of people. It's easier to be like, okay, we're all horny, it's fine. You know, like if Gareth is horny and I'm horny, then it's cool. But if it's just me, then it's a bit sus. So.
Well, I mean, Gareth, I took a recent visit to a casino in the West Strand. I put some pics up there.
You got horny in a casino in the West Strand.
Huh? No.
Did you get horny in a casino in the West Strand?
I found a vehicle with a sticker on that says Pomp Wagon, which is the best thing ever. And I wasn't sure if this dude is visiting from the South or if he's a West Strand person. Have a look here. Here's the car, right? And then if you look, No, there's no number plate there. And then if you look further, there's the sticker.
Sure. And you know those colors,
so good.
that red and black with
Yeah.
the tinted windows. It's very mysterious.
Tell me honestly, it's to me that can be one of three kinds of people. It's either one of your really, really hardcore West Rand Dutchman who wears like Oakley sunglasses and shorts in the middle of winter, or it's an Indian dude, or it's an Indian dude who has like extremely well groomed hair, like he
Gelled
goes
hair,
for
yes.
every 3 days kind of thing, or it's a black dude who's like jacked. It's one of those three.
So it's highly unlikely to be the last one.
I also think so. Just because, like, when I hear the term Pomp Wagon, I'm like, wow.
Yeah, Pomp is giving West Rand.
Let me tell you, I met somebody a couple of weeks ago now. I met someone in Pretoria, this black dude, and he was as Afrikaans. Like, I'm not even that Afrikaans when I'm in Pretoria. This guy was like, "Yo, jere, hoe gaan het?" I was like, "What?"
He went to a horse school.
Because the politicians always tell us how different we are from each other.
We're so similar, man.
When I meet people like that, I'm always like, this guy just breaks all the stereotypes, all of them. And anybody who thinks they know South Africa, like, all these politicians are constantly telling us that, well, you'll vote for me because you are X, Y, and Z and the way you look. I can't tell you how that guy votes. He completely confuses me, let alone how it confuses the politicians. And a guy like that, he is totally unpredictable to these social scientists and these.
He's an outlier. He's literally like an outlier. You don't count them in statistics because it's like highly unlikely that there's more, like a lot more of that kind of person. But I've always found it so interesting, Gareth, how Afrikaans households and black households are so similar, but they don't want to tell you that. They just don't want you to know how we all have so much in common, really. They'd rather divide us. But I think if we actually sat and did the research, we'll be like, what, Magriki? You went through that too? Damn.
Well, this is the funny thing, right? And I do think that there's something to be said for like the environment and how the environment affects the genes and how the environment affects the behavior and all of that stuff. Because even for like white families who arrived here in the 1800s, that's like a good 250 years of like being in the soil, living off the land, kind of having this influence and these weather conditions, this kind of environment. That starts imprinting. It's what they call epigenetics. It starts making a huge influence. And they say that for example, a lot of the Bantu speaking, the Bantu language black people in this country, like Zulu, Xhosa, that kind of thing, they also started arriving in the country 1600s, 1700s, which is also when the white people arrived at the Cape. So they kind of started learning the same stuff around the same time. Only people who've been here longer than that are like the Khoi and the San and the those people who were kind of between the whites and the blacks. They were pushed around, really. I mean, that's the truth.
Shame.
And that's why they have every reason to be the most aggrieved. But it's interesting, like languages, some of the words, some of the behavior, it really is
the mannerisms, they're so similar.
Like you meet a sort of Bloemfontein Sotho speaking black person, and you meet a Bloemfontein Afrikaans speaking white person, and I guarantee you they're more similar
than
like a Joburg white person and a Cape Town white person, for example. There's stuff going on there. Anyway, listen, this is hilarious. Now, who doesn't love seeing a Karen get some karma?
Oh, man, lay it on us.
I just want to be clear, like when I use the term Karen, I mean it especially for irritating people who try and tell other people what to do all the time. I always think of lockdown, and I think of those people who were like telling on their neighbors. Those are the people who I have a Karen. So look at this chick. I don't know why, but she decided to throw something at some other girl who'd parked her car like on the, it's always some little It's like, you can't park there. That kind of attitude.
You can't sit with us.
Right. So this Karen throws something at this chick's car, and this girl's like, "What are you doing? Don't throw things at my car." And then on her way back from throwing this at the car, because she runs over, she throws the thing, and on her way back, this happens. It's so damn good. Are you ready? This will make your whole day. Okay, you ready?
Let's go. Let's go.
You gonna learn today.
Good. Wapapa. I love karma. I love,
So,
when karma just instant. Yeah.
So people who are listening don't have to feel left out. So this fat woman is running, throws this whatever it is at this woman's car. This woman's like, "What are you doing?" And then on her way back, because she starts running back immediately, she trips on the curb and she falls, boom, face first into the tarmac. And then, everybody in the whole world goes, "Yes, there is such a thing as karma."
Karens have so much time. And what is interesting is that it's almost always the same kind of person, right? It's like, I'm a middle-aged white lady, like my life sucks, I'm bored. I see you over there on the other side having too much fun by parking here, so I'm going to come and mess up your day. It's so weird how it's almost always the same type of person. There's a guy in the States who moved into this new neighborhood where there's like a nice little lake. Cool, black guy, minding his business, fishing, tra-la-la-la-la. And then someone comes up to him, a Karen, and they go, "Yeah, well, you're not allowed to be fishing here." And he goes, well, why not? I completely live here, just like you. And he records the whole thing.
Oh,
Cool. Did you see it? It goes viral, and she loses her job. Almost immediately, somebody else comes back. "Hi, sir. Yeah, please can you stop recording what happens here, because our fellow community members are losing their jobs. She's got this huge house she needs to pay off. She has all these bills. How's she going to do that now because you've put her on blast?"
Well, what I would say is, don't interfere in people's lives. And
bro,
if there are rules, like, also there are ways to do it that are nice and friendly. Like, I live in a neighborhood, you live in a neighborhood, we all live in neighborhoods where we have to sometimes follow some stupid rules. Some of them are dumb, some of them are really, really dumb. There's a way to do it though. Like running over and like shouting at someone, waving your finger at them is just such a condescending way to behave with people. And I just don't think we should be like that anymore. If we learned anything out of the last 3 or 4 years, it's like, don't be shitty with people, especially if you live near them. And
nobody likes that guy.
Make friends. Yeah, no one wants to be that person. And look, you don't have to be friends. I mean, I frankly don't really, just because I live next door to you doesn't mean I need to be your friend. But
sure,
there's going to be a time where you do need each other. And why make enemies? Like I've got one neighbor on the one side here. We get on like really well, but we don't seek each other out. It's like when there's something to discuss, we talk to each other. But otherwise, we don't really, like, I don't send him a message every 6 months or 3 months or 2 months and say, how's the family? But if we have an issue, he'll message me and say, "Hey, I need you to do this," or "Can you stop that?" or "Can we talk about this?" or whatever. And I'll do the same thing. And it always works out well. We treat each other with respect. If he had a major problem with me, he would tell me. If I had a major problem with him, I would tell him. Everybody's good.
You speak a lot more to your neighbors than what I do.
Do you know your neighbors at all?
There's only one neighbor that I know, and he's like this really cool, like old dude who used to do all the neon signage for the casinos back in the day. But other than that, I don't like anyone else in my street.
You don't like them, or you just don't know them?
I've ran into a few of them. We've had a couple incidents over the years, and ever since then, I completely ignore my street. I always say to my sister all the time, because she's quite a sensitive person, mind your business.
Yeah.
What kind of incidents like result in like complete like ignoring? Like I'm gonna pretend you don't exist.
Ignoring is one thing.
Wagon, like doing this.
No, we had a bit of an incident one time with my sister, and what they did was, instead of calling us and us sorting this whole situation out, they kept her inside their house.
So they kidnapped your sister?
She calls me and she's like, "Ryan, they won't let me go.
Oh my God.
Can you
the
please
West
come?"
Is so rough.
What's going on in the West Rand, bro?
And then there was an apparent dog that was killed, something like in the street, but then the dog's body wasn't found, and then I tried to get statements from people. Oh, there's a whole situation, and ever since then I've been wanting to get them back, but
revenge. How are you gonna get them back?
My mom was like, just leave it.
Ryan, just leave it. Your mom is
Let
right.
it go.
And
Let it go.
These people are crazy, dude.
they are crazy. You guys have you kidnap people. Everybody has guns. It's like mess around.
There's a whole thing.
I've got a theory that all the people that struggle with road rage, the bulk of them come from the West Rand. Surely. People just have guns in their cabbie holes. They're just like ready to go at any point. It's really giving West
but
a lot of them are from there.
The East Rand is just as bad. And people who don't live in Joburg, at the moment, people who don't live in Joburg are confused. But there are these huge differences. We were talking about like Bloemfontein earlier, but like the East and the West, you couldn't be more different. Did you guys see this story about, I'm amazed by this. So Cardi B was doing a concert in Vegas. Did you hear about this?
The Cardi B, the B in Cardi B came out. Yes.
Yeah, listen. I wouldn't mess with her because she's rough. She's from the streets. She could be, if she was in Joburg, she'd be West Rand.
She used to rob people.
Yeah, Cardi B is doing a show in Vegas and she's singing, I got money moves. And then someone in the crowd has like a cup of like Lebanga's drinking from now. And they like throw some of the water at Cardi B because they're right up front. And I don't know what's happening. Water.
It's probably something sticky and alcohol-y.
I don't know, but why would anyone do that to an artist? It just shows you how feral people have become, that they go to a concert and they think it's okay to throw stuff at the, but you take your life in your hands if you throw things at Cardi B, because she's not going to just take it. So this is what's happened. And now there's a whole like case pending. So take a look at this and I'll explain what happened.
You've probably seen this vid everywhere. Someone threw a drink at Cardi B in Las Vegas, and in response, she threw her mic back at them. Now Las Vegas police has confirmed that a woman at the concert has come forward to report a battery. In a statement, the victim claims she was struck by an item that was thrown from the stage. This is the latest episode in artists having stuff thrown at them at their shows. BB Rexa was hit in the face with a phone, Harry Styles was hit in the eye with a sweets, and Pink had a bag of human ashes thrown her way. Oof. BBC News has asked Cardi B's reps for comment.
Damn.
So, yeah, I'm just going to cut that short. We don't need to hear the whole report. But, imagine throwing human ashes at Pink. That's real.
That's stupid.
Weird.
But look, guys, let's be honest. We've all been to concerts here, right? And I'm not saying what was done is okay. But you know how that energy is. You're there, you're vibing. And when you're that close to the front and you're seeing somebody that you idolize, the excitement kind of sets in. I completely understand how...
No, you control yourself. You can't control yourself. You shouldn't be allowed out in public. So, okay, I'm totally on Cardi B's side. She threw the microphone right at this woman's head and hit her. And good for her.
Wait. I have to present some new information, Gareth, because a video surfaced last night of this where Cardi B said, shit, it's hot in here. You guys throw some water at me.
Ooh.
And then this woman did exactly that, and there's a video of it.
But also in the
video
same video, the girl who threw the water was apologizing. She's like, I'm so sorry. So if Cardi's like, throw water at me, why are you saying sorry?
But okay, so I just don't throw shit at artists, even if they ask you to.
Yes,
people are gonna throw shit, guys.
No, you shouldn't throw shit. You should be thrown out of an auditorium if you have that kind of
we're talking about. It's humans.
Back when I used to go to concerts all the time, when I was in like my 20s, or like
last week.
Sorry, I mean like early 20s. I used to go to concerts all the time. Everybody used to say what they would do is they would pee in a cup and then throw it into the crowd. That was like a standard procedure thing.
Wrong with that.
It was so weird. They're like,
it's part of concert like energy. Like I know Drake is on tour right now.
I never did that.
Drake is on tour. Every single state that he goes to, I think he collects over 100 bras. Women just throwing bras. Look, if we're saying don't throw stuff,
sure,
but
throwing a bra at someone is not going to hurt them unless you've got enormous, like massive,
there was a double G.
Titties. and you're throwing like this huge big sling at, I mean, it's just not on. And Lebang, if that's what happens at concerts you go to, I'm not going to concerts with you anymore. Anyway.
Amen.
Anyway, listen, whether or not now we've got all this new information, I just think this woman now is trying to sue Cardi B is just such an obvious money grab.
Now that's messy.
I think that people have to just realize, like, this is not your moment to be famous.
It's not
Nobody's going to care about her. Nobody's going to listen to her. No one's going to be interested in her story in even 5 weeks from now, 5 days from now.
Something else trending. The thing is, Cardi B is the kind of person that you don't want to get into any legal mess with. There's another lady that she is still in court with over something that happened like 3 years ago, I think, where Cardi took her to court, blah, 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 and that woman right now is being milked dry by Cardi. She's proven that you don't want to be on her bad side. She will rinse you and throw you out.
Hermine points out that the other thing about the Cardi B thing is that the song continued. She was clearly lip syncing. Now, there used to be a time where that was embarrassing. Like if you were caught lip syncing a live show,
caught so much heat for that back in the day.
They would stop going to your shows. You would have a reputation for being like a fake. I don't know.
Now it's like life goes on. It was like auto-tune. Remember when auto-tune first dropped? It was like, oh, you guys can't actually sing. You're just using computers to make yourself sound sexy. Now everybody uses auto-tune.
T-Pain walked procedure. So we could run.
Honestly, you guys owe T-Pain an apology. That man broke down. He was depressed.
And he can actually sing. He can actually sing.
I mean, at the same time, like people who go to a Cardi B show are probably people who are like Cardi B in some way. They are gonna behave like savages. I think you're right, Bang. Like maybe these guys deserve each other. Cardi deserves her audience. The audience deserves mics at them. You guys must just, one of you will survive. We're like, either Cardi or someone in the audience is going to die. Someone's going to go. So let's just turn it into the show that it should be. Where
you know what you're getting yourself into, and just be prepared for what you're getting yourself into. You know the kind of music, you know the energy, you know the vibe. I mean, have you guys ever caught anything at a concert? Like, you know how sometimes they'll throw stuff into the crowd? Have you guys ever caught anything?
I was so close to a drumstick.
A drumstick?
Yeah, I can't remember what band it was. It might have been Seether, or it might have been... I'm trying to think of one of the other bands. Might have been like it might have been the Green Day concert. Trey Cool threw a stick into the crowd, and I was so close to getting it, but that would have in front of me.
No, listen,
that's cool.
Lebang, it took me, what is it now? It's 6:30. It took me a whole half an hour to agree with you, but I think these people just deserve each other. So you go to these shows, that's what you get. Sorry.
I once caught a towel, of which made me very happy. I think I was like 13.
A towel.
G-Unit was in the country. You guys remember the dome? The good old dome that they took away from us?
G-Unit.
G-Unit was in the country. They came twice. I went both times. So I was there like in the crowd standing. I was this child. And then Lloyd Banks threw this crisp white towel that he had just wiped his sweat with. And I freaking jumped in the air and I caught it. And literally the next day, my mom washed it, and it was never the same again. I was just like, so now it's just another towel.
Yeah,
that's just.
But that would have been gross if you kept his sweaty.
It smelled so good, Gareth. It smelled like cologne. Oh,
everything smells good until you get home.
Speak for yourself, bro.
No.
All right. Well, Elon Chief Squad says, I hear all this Cardi B talk. Here's a good question, though. How do you take a shit in this cold weather while wearing a onesie?
That's a very good question.
That is not a good question.
Don't wear a onesie.
Are people still wearing onesies? Because I haven't seen a lot of.
That's not a thing.
During like lockdown, there were a lot of people who would go to the shops and those kinds of things. And I'm glad to say that we don't see much of it anymore.
Yeah, in public. Don't wear your onesie in public. Leave it at home. Keep it for indoors. We don't want to see that. You guys haven't been to the
West Rand. Don't worry. It's still happening.
Okay. All right. Well, let's leave that behind. So here's something interesting too. We were talking about Mick Jagger yesterday and saying how amazing he is. He's the same age as old Joe Biden, and Mick Jagger's 80 years old this year. Look at this guy. He was interviewed when he was a teenager in his 20s about how he's going to be when he's old, and just look at how he's lived up to his own standards. Again, maximum respect for Mick Jagger.
Can you picture yourself at the age 60 doing what you do now?
Yeah, easily, yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Going on stage with a cane and moving the way you do?
Nah, there's a lot of people that do it.
I mean,
He
what
didn't
a guy.
lie. He didn't lie. Shout out.
He didn't even have, but he didn't have the cane. I mean, that interview is probably dead and buried. And Mick Jagger's like, well, I don't need a cane. What are you talking about cane?
It's Mick Jagger, man.
Yes, I got that yesterday after we were talking about it. I'm like, wow. That's an interesting story. 3 of Lizzo's former dancers have filed a lawsuit accusing the singer of sexual harassment, weight shaming, and creating a hostile work environment.
Sexual harassment?
Yeah.
Lizzo.
I'm curious.
That's what got you.
What's going on?
I was like, obviously working with Lizzo is a hostile work environment. I mean, you know, one fart and you could be put to death. You know? Jesus, I mean, you didn't get in the wrong. Get between her and the chicken drumsticks, and you are finished, my friend. She will eat right through you. She will start tearing at you to get through to the chicken.
The bank's not saying anything.
I'm not involved with myself because you know what I've always wondered. Like since I started here at Cliff Central, many years, I've always wondered, like, what did fat people do to Gareth? Like every single opportunity to just have a fat person on screen and make fun. I'm always like, somebody hurt Gareth.
You're telling me that's not worth. You're telling me that's not worth commenting on that story and that.
Sexual
Look at that
harassment. I feel like
look at that outfit. Look at
Come forth, fat person, whoever you are, whatever you did to Gareth, whether you sat on his face or you bumped into him, tell us.
No. Don't make this about me. You see the story. 3 of her former dancers have filed a lawsuit against her, accusing her of sexual harassment, weight shaming, which is, I mean, that's
the irony.
That's rich. And then creating a hostile work environment, which I totally understand. I mean, obviously being around Lizzo is a hostile work environment. You guys are most disturbed by the sexual harassment part of this.
Oh.
No, I'm struggling to picture like how that would go, but
please don't picture it. Don't hurt yourself. You don't have to go that far. Just
yeah, exactly. Just
yeah, the weight shaming one is weird. It's like
no, but I can picture that though. It's like, you know, they have a certain thing, like a mantra that they have on stage. And then maybe they didn't eat on the weekend. It's like, you know, why didn't you guys eat or something?
A lot is going on. A lot is going on in the world of Lizzo.
Yeah, exactly. And the point is that
Yeah,
we should not be surprised by any of this stuff. Did you guys see what Jamie Foxx looks like?
Hey, they cloned Jamie, bro. They literally cloned Jamie. They cloned the boy. Look at that.
No,
this video really broke my heart.
No,
I'm sorry.
This broke my heart.
Is the saddest thing. So he is even claiming it had something to do with the vax.
Damn.
Look at that one eye. His one eye is like looking right into his other one. He's thin. Look at his arm there. It's like
his health it deteriorated quite a bit over the past couple of months. He went almost like MIA. He was just unavailable. And then towards the end of his illness, that's when family members came forward and said, no, he's actually hospitalized. But nobody really had the actual diagnosis. Like it wasn't he has cancer or it was always just mysterious. Like Jamie's just sick. But the irony.
He says when he got the vax, he said this is the vax. And you know what? Considering all the things they told us about that vaccine, about how it wasn't going to, we wouldn't be able to spread COVID. We wouldn't get COVID. All of that was bullshit because clearly none of that was true. That has been proven even by the CDC, the very people, Anthony Fauci's people who told us, no, this is why we have to have, everybody has to get vaccinated. Fauci. Look at Jamie Foxx. I want to point out, this is a guy who's one of the most talented musicians, actors. Like he could do all the things, right?
Yeah.
Look
he's got he can do everything. He's one of literally the most talented people in Hollywood. But there's a movie on a lighter note. There is a movie that he just recently, I think he directed it and he actually plays a role in it. It's called They clone Tyrone. It's on Netflix. It is literally the bomb.com, but the timing of it all is also kind of has an extra layer to Jamie Foxx's illness, because the movie itself is about how this guy gets shot. I won't give away too much, but this guy gets shot and then they clone him and they find this underground world where a lot of stuff is happening. Now, the man, if you know what I mean by the man doesn't like the fact that this movie came out. So the timing of it is almost very interesting. Like, Jamie fell sick just before this movie was about to come out, and it's such a controversial movie that'll make you rethink eating chicken and such.
Oh, boy.
Watch it, and then you do the math. There's so much like conspiracy theories around all of it, but the movie itself is really, really dope. It's back.
I was just horrified when I saw that picture in that video. It's just not great.
Yeah.
All right, so Ryan, I hear you went to see the Barbie movie.
Oh yeah. No,
Wow.
I got dragged into it. Yeah.
Did somebody put a gun to your head?
Yeah,
No,
you're the only
well-
man who went to the Barbie movie.
Yeah, well, to be fair, my sister was trying to be nice and bought us tickets, but her boyfriend did he kind of did me dirty, because as soon as he heard that I was going to see that movie, he bought tickets to Oppenheimer. So he went to Oppenheimer by himself and left me to go and see Barbie with my sister. And it was on the busiest night on Saturday night of all nights to go watch movies. And there I am ducking into the Barbie movie. I was so embarrassed. I just was watching the rugby, and there I am screaming out like at the rugby because I put money on it, and I was like having a time. And then there I go into the Barbie movie. So, yeah, it was a whole experience, Gareth. I was actually thinking of I was telling Dari we should get you to go see the movie, and I would love to time.
No, don't do
No.
that.
I just want to see how long it would take for Gareth to walk out that movie.
Don't waste your time.
My
guys.
bet was like 5 to 10 minutes, but
How was the movie, Ryan?
it was okay. It wasn't. I wouldn't go see it again, and I think it's actually a terrible movie, but it's not as bad as what everyone was writing about. The beginning is terrible. Like, Gareth, you'd walk out within the first 5 minutes because it's the whole Barbie Land thing. But I don't understand it. I didn't know the storyline. So when I told everyone in the office about it yesterday, they were all laughing at me because they're like, Ryan, don't you know how this works? Because, like, there's no actual thing. So like when she takes a shower, there's no water. When she drinks something, there's no.
She's a doll.
But she's a real life person in the movie, which makes no sense. And then the portal between Barbie Land and Earth is there's no portal to. It makes no sense.
Stop this right here. I mean, first things first. It would take a lot for me to say no to something with Margot Robbie in it. Okay, so for me to just completely avoid this movie because I think Margot Robbie is just magnificent. So for me to say,
she can act.
Sure, but I will not see this movie. By the way, I'm getting a lot of people saying you're spreading bullshit about Jamie Foxx. He had a stroke like millions of other people. He's recovering now. He was pulling a funny face. He's good. He's recovering. Listen, the guy is not looking healthy. So you can bring all this stuff in. You can say that that's it, just like the people who say that it was the vax, the people who say that it wasn't. I don't care. Fact is, this guy looks like shit at the moment, and it saddens me. That's the story. The story is, and here, Cindy says, nothing's wrong with his eyes. Watch the video. I did watch the video. That is a picture that he's aware that picture's going around. He looks terrible. The guy's looking sick. Forget about the eyes or any of this. You guys are so easily distracted by stuff. The fact is, this man is not well. And it saddens me that this one of the most talented people in the world is having a really tough time. However it happened, okay? So I just think that to just move on from that to Margot Robbie, I think it's even worse that there's a Barbie movie.
Yeah, I know.
It's all going to shit.
I wasn't too pleased about that one either, but it's okay. Like everybody's saying, I'm complaining about it, but it's.
Graham says, Ryan, I hope you had a triple brandy and Coke, went to a strip club, and wolf whistled at some Binnets to somehow regain your manhood.
Funny thing was, I did have a couple drinks before I went in. I said to my sister, "There's no way I'm seeing this thing sober," because I was so mad.
You're so dramatic, Ryan.
I said to her, if you want to surprise me next time, buy me tickets to the rugby. Like that everyone is at Ellis Park on Saturday.
Mm.
And there I am going to a Barbie. I was so mad. Anyway, she did it as a surprise thing, so no one else would see the movie with her. So I went and saw it. And I'm not moaning about it because it's like I'm just shitting on the Barbie movie. It just, to me, it makes no sense. Like the storyline makes no sense.
I don't think you're the target market. Like if we think about it properly,
not.
you're definitely not the target market either. So
no, of course. So
that's fine.
I'm not going to tell everyone to not go watch it, but go watch it by all means. Just to me, it doesn't make any sense to me. So it's not my kind of movie. But I did hear Oppenheimer was really, really good. 3 hours though. You know,
yeah, it's a hell of a time commitment. Couple of things in the news that are worth referring to, because we've got a really awesome interview. In fact, Bakabantu went to see the show on Sunday. He told me about it on Monday morning. Paul Slabolepszy, who's actually my guest after 7 o'clock. I think you're going to enjoy that a lot. He's a legend of South African theatre. He's got a lot of interesting stories to tell. And we'll talk about all of that with Paul in just a couple of minutes. But I do want to throw in one or two quick stories here. The first one is still about, because this story is not going away. Paul Mashatile's 8 VIP protection unit cops were released on 10,000 Rand bail each. Now, a lot of people are losing their minds about this. They're like, oh, how can they let them go for 10,000 Rand? They're not letting them go. They're on bail for 10,000 Rand, which means that they just can't skip the country or anything else. Otherwise, they lose that 10,000 Rand. But they still have to go in to be tried, right? So this is not the case. I do think, as much as I'm incensed by this story, everybody is, because we all saw the video and we're all disgusted and disturbed by it. We've got to remember that there's a process in law. It's like these people who say, how can you get upset about Julius singing "Kill the Boer"? The fact is, we have rules in this country. We are not a country that tolerates hate speech. So if someone is going to say something like that, they need to bear the consequences. If we saw someone using the K word against a black person in public, as we have seen in very, very well publicized stories on Twitter before, those people have to be tried for the kind of speech that we don't like in this country. That's not my rule. That's the rule we've decided on as a country. So
this is Paul Mashatile that we're speaking about. He is extremely powerful. To be honest, I'm surprised that they even found them and they even appeared at all. I don't think anything's going to happen with this case. Sadly, I'm not saying this proudly. And look, I mean, the justice system has failed us so many times. Yes, what's going to happen is they're gonna yes, we'll try them. Sure, they'll appear, but Gareth, it's going to be like a
we can't prejudge this thing. I mean, I do think that either we have a legal system or we don't. If we going to throw the baby out with the bathwater, then we live in an anarchy. So what's happening here is, as much as we're all pissed off that they're getting this 10,000 Rand bail, which doesn't sound like a lot, they still have to get. They have to be tried. They have to. The prosecutors have to bring evidence, and then of course there can still be a civil trial after that, where the actual victims can sue these guys for bodily harm and grievous bodily assault and all of that stuff. So there's still more to happen. I'm not happy about this either, but that's just bail. So there's a process. So either we believe in the process, or it's just complete anarchy, in which case the strongest wins, in which case big, strong VIP bodyguards can beat someone up without any consequence. So
and life goes on. Let's see what happens.
Yeah,
let's see what happens. It's the 2nd of August today. I would love to look back on this very conversation once we know what the outcome is. And if I'm wrong, I will admit. But
I saw on Twitter that somebody ruled it as one of the judges was saying it's a weak case or something.
Already.
So the magistrate said that the state had not managed to prove that it is the 8 police officers who sent threatening messages to one of the witnesses. The person who recorded the video was also threatened. The bail applicants ordered not to contact the state's witnesses in any manner. The judge also warned the police officers, the magistrate warned the police officers. She said the 8 had strong family and economic ties in South Africa. They'd surrendered their passports, so they can't go anywhere. The magistrate also remarked that the accused police officers do not know the complainants in the matter, the people they allegedly assaulted last month. Of course, they could be lying. So let's just see what happens here, because I do think we've got to let the law take its course, even if it's frustrating and it takes forever. And we all know stories of where justice was not done, blah, blah, blah. But either we have a system or we don't. So let's just see where it goes before we start, tearing it apart. And then there's a price hike in diesel on Wednesday. That's today. So I'm afraid, get ready for this. We were just talking yesterday to Mutale in Zambia, and she was saying, the fuel price is going up. Well, today, unleaded petrol will be hiked by 37 cents a litre, and diesel will go up by 72 cents a litre.
And can I tell you, it's not motorists who are going to suffer in this country. It's more the people who have generators.
Yeah, well, that's why the diesel's so much more expensive now, right? And so all of this can be tied back to just Eskom and that whole debacle, which we, luckily, I got to say, like, we've tried to avoid talking about it for the last however many days because it's just so boring. But it's still going on, even though we're not talking about it. There's still load shedding every day. Still have to check those schedules. Still have to see if you can cook your supper.
I mean, it's come down a lot, though. Because I overheard there was some big chief that was arrested a couple of weeks back. I forget the name of her now. Yes, she was she was like deliberately causing trouble and getting guys to go and fix all these power stations or transformers and things. And so ever since she's been arrested, that's why we're on like stage 1, which is so weird because before
I'm not on stage 1.
Because this one woman was no, Ryan.
Twice a day.
Yeah, I'll find it today.
It's stage 4 at the moment. So I don't know.
Is it stage 4?
No,
I get the notification twice a day.
Last night it was stage 4. So I mean, I was about to make some supper, and then my oven just goes. I'm like, okay,
psych.
All right. Well,
yeah, the world is ending
tonight. I think I'll just have I have some I don't know, hot water.
I had a tremor last night again. In the West Rand. I don't know if anyone else experienced it. I went on Twitter. There was a couple. No, I promise you. There was like my house started shaking a little bit. And I went on Twitter, and the first thing I searched is tremor, and then there was a bunch of people. Rediput, West Rand. Tremors happening. So I don't know what's going on.
The world's ending. The world is ending. There's tremors in the West Rand. There's men in Japan buying dog suits. There's zoos that have humans inside their bear suits. Like, the world is coming to an end. The Book of Revelation is officially
but hang on.
In action.
Just explain, because this is a true story about this guy.
It's a real thing.
He wanted to pretend, there's wanting to look like a dog, Gareth, but this guy doesn't want to look like a dog. He actually wants to become a dog, so much so that he's gone as far as trying to change his how he identifies as. He wants to identify as this dog. So he spent like 2 million yen on a dog suit, right? Which he pretty much he got it custom made.
2 million yen.
2 million yen. You can do the math. So he gets inside this dog suit. He's even got a whole YouTube channel where people type questions and they say, so why did you want to do this? Why is this so important to you? And the comment section is sickening. Other people actually come forward and they go, oh my gosh, you inspire me. I've also always wanted to be a dog since I was a kid, blah, 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 blah. So I think he spent about a year just in his house, putting on this dog suit, rolling around, doing his dog business. And then
mannerisms and all that.
Exactly. And then he went outside for the first time last week. Oh my gosh. It just caused chaos. He was just out there with the other dogs. This guy, his identity is hidden. He says he doesn't want his family and friends to know who he is for obvious reasons. Well, but he's just gone ahead and identifies as a dog.
If it's so normal and we should encourage this and we should treat people who want to identify as dogs with respect, then why is he so careful about not letting his identity out? Because he knows the rest of society is going to mock and ridicule him, and he'll deserve it.
Honestly, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
But how is this any different to someone who identifies a different gender or someone who identifies a different race? We've had all of this before. So inevitably it was going to get to a point where someone was going to put on a dog suit. And I know there's some crazy shit that goes on in Japan, but this is just stupid.
It's mental. It's mental. But again, the real scary thing was seeing how many people in the comment section were like supporting him and saying, they also now want to go down the same road of being a dog. I mean, if you have a fetish of being a dog in the nighttime, just say that with your chest and own it and do your thing behind closed doors. This is now just
expect a little bit of blowback. Okay. Expect some people to say, yeah, this is ridiculous and I'm not going to take this seriously. That's
100%.
That's all.
For me, it's
everybody's just going to go, yeah, this is great. Well done.
Good for you. No, sir.
It's the idea of this guy actually like being his dog self and then putting a camera, filming himself, and then getting up and turning the camera off and going to upload the video like a normal person.
Isn't that just crazy?
That's weird, right?
People have time, bro.
How does one pay the bills being a dog? Like that's.
We can ask that again.
But
it's this whole thing.
It's going to be hilarious. I mean, at least we're living in a time where we get to see this stuff happen. There's no shortage of entertainment, is what I'm saying.
100%. We cannot look back and say we didn't see it coming. The signs are here. We're seeing that shit's going to shit, and we're all just watching it happen.
Right, and it's very, very entertaining. So don't take it too seriously. Let's see what happens. And when a dog comes up to the counter at Checkers and wants to pay, let's see how that works. It's going to be lots of fun. Let's go. One other thing. Can I just point out how quickly everyone has started calling Twitter X? Because people like that have switched over. And I'm not thrilled about this because I think it's just dumb. It's like Elon's just messing with us. But people are already saying X. You're used to it. It comes up on the internet as X now. It comes up as X on your phone as an app.
On your phone, yeah. I was like, what is this app? And I was like, oh, gosh.
And I'll tell you what else. The post office, even the post office, who can't do anything properly, who are like one of the worst public service things in the whole country, public businesses in the country. I mean, we rely on the post office.
I didn't even know people existed.
If you rely on the post office, you're in big trouble. You're out of business already.
You live in the 90s.
If you go to the post office website, they've already changed the Twitter icon to X. So at least even they have done that. I was blown away when Ryan told me this yesterday. But
that's actually pretty hectic. It's pretty hectic. Like, what are we doing? If the post office is already on point with this, like, then who are we?
It's that IT guy. He's like, I need something to put on the invoice. Let me just do a quick change.
Let me scribble something
there
in there.
There we go. I can. But it's like they don't even reply to emails or socials or letters. I mean, they are the post office. They don't even reply properly. And here they are changing their social media things on their website. It's hilarious. I didn't even know that they were still going.
Evidently, there are still things that the post office can do right. I mean, anyway, I just think it's pretty funny how people have immediately started calling it X. It's happened. And if you'd said to me, in branding and marketing terms, what Elon's throwing away here with the little bird and tweeting and Twitter, and it's been like one of the most recognizable brands in the world, and he's just thrown it all in the garbage heap and renamed it X, and now people have to come up with a new word for tweeting, and it's happened anyway. And no one was consulted. It just went ahead. It shows you how quickly things can change and how you get used to it.
Adapt or die, Gareth. Call it X or die. Like, there'll come a time when you say, follow me on Twitter, and they'll laugh at you. They'll be like, oh, still calls it that.
Where are all those marketing and branding experts that we always hear from who say to us, no, well, the brand is valued at this much. And because if Elon bought anything, part of what he was buying was supposedly the brand, right?
Yeah.
And he's just binned the entire brand. So someone from marketing, one of those marketing experts, those people who go around and charge a huge fee to people to consult to them about branding. I want one of those people to explain to me what's just happened here, because this flies in the face of everything they've told us, right?
Yeah, he's definitely disrupting the natural flow of how things go. But he also does have a bigger plan and a bigger picture. So like, let's just let Elon do his thing. And like, let's just smile and wave. I
just felt bad. There was a guy who had an account that was at X on Twitter for over 16 years, right? So everybody referred to it. They were like, "Oh, this dude's about to get a payout from Elon." Man just took it away.
Damn.
He just messaged them and said, "Sorry, we'd like to send you some merch, but we have to take this back. Thank you."
Oh my gosh! But what was he doing with the handle? Like, what was his?
That was his handle. It was just at X. Whoever it was. So he thought he was about to get a payout to hand it over to Elon. Elon was like, "Nope, Twitter's now gone at at Twitter.
Yeah.
So now it's at X, and so now that dude is like trying to get a lawsuit together."
I've always thought those people who just squat on a URL, for example, you know, those people who bought up like thousands of URLs.
They'll buy the domain until you need it. You'll buy it from me.
On it, and then those people sometimes got paid out big amounts of money because they were on a useful URL, domain.
Bafana was like that.
Yeah, and people like that, they just ended up being paid just for owning these things, which they bought for like $1 or whatever, and then they end up paid up millions of dollars. I've always hated those people, so I don't want them to keep scoring money. I think they're assholes.
It's a good business move. Like, if you can see that this brand is about to blow, like Green Hot Cups is about to blow up, and they don't have a domain, you just buy it. For like $10 and you just chill until such a time where they're like, you know what, we need a website now. Who owns this domain? And then they find you and you say, I can sell it to you, but just give me like 200,000 rand. They'll do it.
Bafana was like that. They didn't have, their name wasn't registered. So some guy saw that, registered the name, and then said, "Hey, using my brand." And then they had to pay the guy out like a couple million to get it back and actually get the registered trademark.
I don't think those people deserve the money. So if Elon just away from him on Twitter, then that's probably a good thing. I don't have a problem with that. I don't. What value are you really adding? No,
well, that's
all right. That's all we got time for this morning. I've mentioned already, and I will introduce it properly to you in the next couple of seconds. Paul Slabolepszy, who's really is one of probably arguably in the top 3, along with John Carney and the original Barney Simon, probably one of our greatest playwrights. He's certainly one of the most prolific. And it's so ironic that even at the beginning of this week, Bakabantu was talking about going to his show. So it's been in our kind of collective conscience for a little while now. And I think it would be interesting to hear from the man, to understand his story. And that's all coming up in the next couple of minutes. So don't go away. We will see you, though, Lebang next week and Ryan next week. And otherwise, have an awesome start to your day. But if you are sticking around, which you should do, I will intro a little bit about Paul in the next while, and you're gonna enjoy hearing from this guy. He's a very, very interesting man, and we get into the story of him and Bill Flynn and a whole bunch of other stuff. Don't go anywhere.
This week on the Auto Trader podcast,
cruise control doesn't really do well with icy roads. There's other things to worry about when you're driving in colder weather. So one thing is your braking is obviously going to be impacted quite substantially, especially when the road gets extremely cold and starts getting icy. So just watch out for your braking then.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
Every time you listen to that 80s show, Tom Cruise lives another 10 years. Every Friday on CliffCentral.com, Paolo and Dory review movies, reminisce about old songs, remember childhood places that are now car parks, and say some outrageously rude things about Patrick Swayze's brother. That 80s Show, new episode every Friday, live or as a podcast on CliffCentral.com.
All right. It is Wednesday morning. We've got some very cool stuff still lined up for you. Tomorrow, of course, is Thursday. It's the Burning Platform with Pumi. We're going to be very excited to bring you another episode of that. And we've got some cool guests lined up for the next couple of weeks too. So there's lots to look forward to. Of course, on Friday, we place some super bets. Ben joins us. Simpiwe comes in. And George Meany, along with some more exciting guests. And also, through the course of this week, you can check out Gareth's guests to find all kinds of interviews. At least one or two of them, of the new ones, will be the kind of thing that you're interested in. I'll introduce our next interview in just a moment or two. Also have to say, this is like for most people, the worst time of the month, right? Because first couple of days of a new month, and today's only the second, is you see all those debit orders come off. And I don't know how you feel about those, but I can pretty much guess. And it's probably a 4-letter word. So not the best thing in the world. Be strong. Once you've made it through those first 3 days, then usually all the debit orders are gone and you can actually figure out how much you do have left or how much you don't have left and work out your monthly budget accordingly. It's not the best thing. It really isn't. Also, getting a little bit warmer, but we're not going to count our chickens, as I said, because August is still freezing cold. I do have to say also, if you haven't checked out the latest episodes of Beyond Madness, they are all available. In fact, the whole series, this whole season, is available now on CliffCentral.com. So go and check that out too. All available on the website or on the app or wherever you get your podcasts. Some people prefer Spotify. Some people prefer Apple Podcasts. If you haven't tried any of those, maybe you want to experiment with them. I was talking just yesterday to the team about how some of the podcasts I listen to, I have to listen to on Spotify. Some of them I have to listen to on Apple Podcasts. And then some of them I even get from our Cliff Central app. So whichever way you use it, that's absolutely fine by us. Paul Slabolepszy is probably one of the most prolific theater people in South Africa. And by prolific, I mean that he's written more theater plays. He's done more actual conception and production and writing than very many people in this country. In fact, if you go and see the guy's Wikipedia page, and most people's Wikipedia pages are useless, but his is full of interesting information. And we cover a lot of that in this discussion. He's also such a nice guy. He's so thoroughly South African. When you see him, when you hear him, you can't help but think South African. And of course, he's most well remembered by people as being part of the duo that he was in with Bill Flynn, who was his longtime collaborator. And the two of them did so much work together, TV, movies, and in theater, so that they're almost inseparable in most of our minds. But in case you don't know, if you don't know a damn thing about Paul, then lucky you, because you get to hear it right from us right now. So here it is. Here's Paul Slabolepszy on CliffCentral.com just for you on this Wednesday morning. Keep warm. Well, if we had to interview just the legends of various, silos in South Africa, various industries, various arts, various considerations, various contributions to South Africa, this man would be in the top, on the top of the list of people in theater in this country who've really done an absolutely sterling job over a long and prolific career. In fact, if you look on Wikipedia, they describe him as being arguably South Africa's preeminent playwright after Athol Fugard. That's no slouch. Paul Slabolepszy is a prolific writer and performer. He was a founder, member of Space Theatre, which was South Africa's first non-racial theatre company. He did that with Athol Fugard, with Yvonne Bryceland and John Carney in 1972. And ever since then, he has not only been doing serious and important things in theatre, but he's been entertaining us properly on television and on the stage for the longest time. It's very good to have you here, sir. And what a pleasure to have you in our studio.
Thanks, Gareth. It's great to be here.
Thank you, Paul. So how are you, first of all? Last time we caught up was probably a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I'm looking old. You're looking good.
Just keep on going. No, things are great at the moment. In fact, I'm very busy. I mean, I got a new play opening at Hilton in a couple of weeks, as well as Palace that I wrote in 82.
We'll talk about Palace just now, because that's a revival.
Yeah, it's a revival. So, like, what's it, 40? How many? What's that? 42, 41 years or something? Crazy. I mean, it's hard to think that you're jumping around the stage 41 years ago, and they're doing it again for the first time back in Joburg.
So, I mean, let's start with something which I think we left off with last time, because you're synonymous with so many things in South Africa. And when people see your face, they go, "Oh wow, it can't possibly be that he's written something new." You're always writing new things.
Yeah,
you're always doing new things. You haven't lost your love of it at all, have you?
No, it's just I love storytelling. So I find a new story. I mean, I'm working with Trolley Man at the moment, with these trolley guys, and writing a Trolley Man movie, actually, not a play.
About these guys are the rubbish trolleys on the. It's a very South African thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It doesn't happen anywhere else in the world.
No, and it's fascinating, the lives, and the different, also the guys who've got university degrees, and then guys who sweep streets, and so it's fantastic. And so I'm always looking for stories and just enjoying telling them, meeting new people and hearing their stories.
Talking about stories, your story is actually a fascinating one, and I don't want us to just talk about what you're doing at the moment today, because it's always nice to do a little bit of a retrospective, and with you there's plenty of material.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you originally wanted to get into radio.
Yeah. In fact, there was a funny thing at UCT called BA Broadcasting.
Yeah.
Oh, shit, geez, I should have brought it up. I threw it away yesterday because I'm moving out of my study now, and I found this assessment from the Cape Town studios, SABC. Oh, shit.
The ones there on Sea Point.
Yeah. I tore it up because of the, this is so shit. It's sitting that my...
No, those are the things you must keep. Where they give you a bad review.
A bad review.
What did they say?
Well, they said that I projected too much on the mic.
I know.
And then my standard English wasn't that hot. Well, I came from the Limpopo Valley, so what can you expect?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And a couple of things, and it's almost like, no, he won't succeed. But I wanted to be a sports broadcaster, so it didn't matter, I mean, I wasn't going to be a sort of conventional SAFM kind of person. I was interested in being the new Charles Fortune.
Oh yeah, he was a voice.
Yeah, he was
a cricket commentator, wasn't he?
That's right. He was like one of the best in the world. Everyone knew Charles Fortune. Always went, and the seagulls fly over the Sydney cricket ground. He was used to.
Oh wow!
And he went on till he was about 86. Until he got the batsmen mixed up and stuff, and the bowlers. Wow. And then they said, "Listen, Charles, you better leave now." But that's what I wanted to do, and that's how I got to the drama school thing, because we had to go to UCT campus at Heading Hall.
So acting was like your second choice.
Well, no, when I got there,
because I mean, I've never met anyone who would have put radio first except for you. And you ended up not doing it.
No, well, look, I mean, I was
radio is usually where people go when they can't get anything else to work. So I mean, you went about it the opposite way.
Look, but I was a kind of a journalist. When I was at school, I played every sport going. That's why I was going to be a sports commentator.
Right.
And I was writing for the Northern Review in Petersburg when I was 16 years old, because they had no reporter. So I was reporting on all the games. So whenever I had to, I scored goals, I couldn't use my name. So I'd say the left wing scored brilliantly from the corner flag. So that's, and so that's what I wanted to do, because I only knew sport, no drama, no nothing, no culture whatsoever. I grew up in a cultural backwater. The right-wing areas of the country, Witbank, Messina, Petersburg. It was, and that's why a lot of my plays deal with racism, especially from those days, because of the things I saw and experienced,
And what did your family think of you at that point, going into something that was like a bit of a soft?
Well, my dad wanted me to be an engineer, you see, and I said, "Listen, please let me."
He was Polish.
Yeah, Polish. Right. Yeah, he was an engineer.
He was a Polish refugee to England.
No, he was a pilot, Spitfire pilot. He was in the he was in the Polish arm of the Royal Air Force.
Jeez,
he flew planes in Poland until they had no more planes, and then he was a prisoner of war, and he escaped from Romania and just wanted to get to England to fight in the war.
Listen, I often say to people, unless you've actually heard from Polish people what happened in 1939, there are these unbelievable stories. You're a storyteller. You could probably do this better than me. But these stories about these Polish families who found armor from the 1500s, put it on, got on horseback, and rode with lances out to meet the blitzkrieg.
Cavalry.
I mean,
they rode on their horses.
Can you imagine anything more noble, more brave than, these incredible, proud people who were just steamrolled by that German war machine?
That's all they could do, My dad's story, he was 19 years old, and he tells the story of, it was at his house, and his mother came out to the front door. He was in his Air Force uniform. The truck came past, jumped on the truck, and off he went. And he didn't see her for 30 years,
But she made it.
She made it.
She survived.
She survived, but his father had died in the meantime. But he was 19 when he left. And then so he was flying in England at age 20 already. It's crazy. It's like, So, that's and then he didn't. England was a bit tough to the Poles after the war.
Still is.
Yeah, it still is to foreigners. They were great. They were heroes. They saved Britain in the in the Battle of Britain, in the Spitfires and the Hurricanes.
Absolutely. So he was one of the pilots in the Battle of Britain.
Yeah. Well, no, he wasn't flying at that stage. And then after the war, he said, like, what are they going to do? And I mean, it's a story that I always tell. I'm writing a memoir about it,
Beautiful.
In our time with Billy and my whole career. But he had my grandfather's hat, and he put Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and USA, South Africa into the hat, little pieces of paper. And he went, my mum put her hand in, pulled out South Africa. I mean, I could have been in Chicago. I could have been in Australia.
You might have had, more people who appreciated theater if you'd gone to
if I'd gone there. But also if I'd gone to the States, I would have been perfect age for the Vietnam War. Because, a lot of the immigrants went to Vietnam. And so if I'd gone to Chicago, then...
Isn't it amazing? And you must think about this a lot more than I do, because you've got like life experience under the belt that I still have to get. But you think about these chance encounters with fate and how your dad pulled a country out of a hat. And that's how you ended up here.
Yeah.
And the contribution you've made to South Africa ever since. The fact that you're about as South African as anybody I know.
Yeah.
Like you've even helped to define things in South African culture. Dory reminded me when we were waiting for you to arrive about in the center, Mr. Venter.
Yeah.
I mean, there's still people who say, they don't know where it comes from now, but they say it. And you invented that.
It's funny, the guys are rehearsing Palace now at the moment. I was there to read through on Tuesday. And the guy says, you say GCM, GCM. First he keeps saying GCM. What is GCM? I said, geez, I can't remember. So anyway, old Charlie Googles it. Says Paul Slabolepszy, 1982. So it's Google.
You invented
it. It says it there. It says,
well, you couldn't say Jesus.
Yeah, it was like OMG today. GCM.
Right,
it's like, I think it's Jesus, God, and Mary or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing, like GCM, Vince. You can't do that. So it's interesting that it.
But you have. I mean, these are not small things. You can be humble about it. But the fact is, for South Africans to be using these catchphrases, these terms, which you had a hand in inventing, is no small thing. It's made us a unique and culturally very diverse and interesting country.
It's interesting also kind of the slang of the day, like tune me and
you
level
did that
the
too.
gravel and all of these kind
level
of
with the gravel. My dad used to say that to me too. That's also one of yours.
No. That's what you all said. But I'm saying it's that language still remains.
Look,
like
even if you didn't invent it, because of the work that you did on screen and on stage, it made it kind of de rigueur,
and like in the center, Mr. Fenton, where's the cheese, obese? All of those. In fact, that was me and Billy. We did that Iron J Steakhouse Melts thing.
Yes.
We did the copy. They gave us this copy, and it was so boring. So when we'd finished, we shot the whole thing in about an hour. We said, "Listen, can we do our own version?" And everyone looked at each other, and the copywriters looked a bit.
Oh boy,
shaky.
and the ad agency.
Yeah, and they looked, and they said, and the director said, "Now, come on, let's shoot it." And we shot it, and of course, that's what came out. I mean, when the guys are playing golf,
so good.
Golf tournaments around the world, they say, that ball is in the center, Mr. Fenter. And I said, that's us. That is nice.
That's spectacular.
It is. That's
and
we won't pay for that, by the way.
Yeah.
These copywriters get a fortune.
You mentioned Bill Flynn. And again, there's someone who I always associate in my mind. I always put you two together.
Yeah.
You did so many years of work together.
Yeah.
And it's been a while now. He died in 2007.
Yeah, 2007. That's right.
It's been a long time, but I still, I had to like check myself before we started this interview and think,
can't believe it.
like, how long has it been?
Yeah. Yeah, we met at drama school. We were both 18. We were the first rugby players at UCT drama school. Because no rugby
the
players.
twain did not mix.
Yeah, yeah. And that's how we became mates because I was saying, geez, I'm arrived at drama school and there are a lot of wonderful babes around. In fact, Rosie van der Gutt was the professor. Thought that Billy and I were just there for the chicks,
girls.
You know? Yeah.
You might have been.
Yeah, well, half of it's true. But anyway, but so we both played rugby. He played for False Bay. I played UCT under 20. And so that's when we met. And we both went to the space together. He came up to Joburg a bit later than I did. But for 40 years, we just created mayhem. We did our own stuff. We made movies.
Do you miss him?
Oh, yeah. I used to miss him kind of every day. It's not as bad as that now. But for about 3 or 4 years.
That's just because your memories.
No, I used to get very emotional, you know.
I'm sure.
Look, I still think of Bill quite often. And it's weird. I have dreams every now and again, once every 3 or 4 months, I dream and there's Billy. And I'm going, it's weird. You're around, but you're supposed to be not here, you know. So it's kind of weird. It's very weird. But look, you have 40 years. Eh? In the 40 years that we did all the stuff in South African theatre, we were in contact. We never had 2 weeks in all those 40 years where we weren't making contact. So we're either working together thousands and thousands of hours at night on stage, in rehearsal, doing radio, doing movies, doing television. Yeah, so yeah, it was crazy.
It's amazing how those sort of partnerships seem to happen. You know, I mean, in IT, they always talk about Hewlett and Packard, who started the first computer business back in the day. They're all these great collaborations, Fry and Laurie, you know, from a comedy point of view in the UK. And you can go through compendia of these things. And it's interesting how, like, people often who are quite different. I mean, you two are certainly very different looking. You brought different things to the shows. But it just seems to work better when they're two. And it's easier and it flows. And then, of course, you can go on like Lennon and McCartney eventually did their own thing.
Went solo,
but in the beginning, it was essential that they were together.
Yeah, that partnership, I mean, it was almost unstoppable. You know, I mean, the Heel Against the Head, the rugby play, I mean, like, we ran that 3 or 4 years. We did how many, I don't know how many thousand performances we did. But we ran that for 3 years, you know, and then did gigs. And we were invited to open stadium, you know, the Ellis Park Stadium for the Currie Cup final. We entertained the crowd, you know. So there was crazy things in those years, you know. That was that collaboration, the two of us. It was Chocky and Crispin, you know, that sort of thing. Like, well, Palace was Forsey and Vince, and then Chocky and Crispin. So this double act that we kind of had going, and we used to bring it to life in different, you know, iterations.
Do you think there's a kind of magic, a sort of simpatico thing that happens with people who you click with and can work with for that long? Because people try to manufacture it and it's impossible.
Yeah.
It's just somehow
it clicks. Also, it's the yin and the yang. There's like, it's quite funny in real life. Billy was the boozer and the wild one, you know, crazy one. And I was like the shy kind of, but when we were partners in movies or plays, I was the bad guy.
You inverted it.
I was a rough guy. Billy was the innocent little teddy bear that all the girls wanted to hug and be mummy to, you know. So that was the kind of, and it always worked. It always worked. Billy was the slightly doff character who was looking for, and I was the bad guy. Let's do this, let's do that, let's get drunk, you know.
No, I mean,
so playing opposites.
It's often hard for me to even separate the characters because there's so many of them that have been part of so many of our stories.
Yeah.
And when I think about, I don't think about one character. You mentioned a couple of them now.
Yeah.
And I just thought, it's in my head, it's almost like an amalgamation. Yeah. Is it difficult for you when you're playing a new character that you've written, or when you're reviving an old one, as you're doing now with the Palace? Is it difficult to kind of separate those in your head? Because you've played so many.
Yeah. Look, I mean, this Palace now, obviously, it's young guys playing it. So I'm just around to advise or give, they want to ask any questions, they do it. Because we were in our early 30s when we did Palace. And, I'm writing stuff. If I do stuff for myself now, of course, I'm writing older characters. But it's nice to see youngsters coming in and playing the stuff.
But what I mean is when you tell these youngsters now, you're giving them advice on how to play the characters. Do you have to like dig into the depths of your memory for this stuff, or is it still crystal clear to you? Because you actors have an ability that I'm very jealous of. It's that you can learn stuff, you can perform stuff, and you can re-inhabit those characters almost at will. I've seen it happen, and you're one of those people who could do that.
Yeah. No, we remember the times, and it's like part of your. In fact, there's a movie I did just before COVID called Mr. Johnson, about a guy who has a motorbike accident in 1973 or whatever, and wakes up 47 years later. It's called Mr. Johnson. It's on Showmax, actually. I think it's still on Showmax.
Good.
Yeah. And
check that out.
Look, I didn't write the movie. I came aboard late. In fact, I wish I'd come aboard earlier to work a bit more on the script. But it's a guy who has this motorbike accident. So he wakes up like age 73 and thinks he's 25 because he's been in a coma for 47 years. Sure. And sometimes I feel like that. Like I said to the guy, the director, I said, you cast me, I'll give you the language we used in 73. Because he wakes up and says, hey, you guys got a Coke float? And he walks into a internet cafe and goes, I'd like a Coke float, please. He doesn't know what the fuck internet is,
No.
And so the guy says, looks at him, you got a brown cow? You remember Coke floats and brown cow?
Yeah.
You're too young.
No, I remember Coke floats.
Yeah.
Brown cow. What's
brown
brown
cow was milk and milk and Coke. Was a brown cow.
God, people they used to drink that?
Yeah. I think it was milk and Coke or an ice cream and Coke. I can't remember.
You guys didn't know what you were eating and drinking in those days.
Yeah. But it's crazy, like parfaits and what else do we have at roadhouses? But anyway, so it was nice to be able to go back, like guy sees a cell phone, doesn't know what the hell it is, starts bleeping and freaks out. Often I feel like that, like Rip Van Winkle, you wake up after
and also people ask you to reprise old stuff because they loved it so much. Do you ever get annoyed when people, they say, it's like any artist. I mean, I heard an interview with John Cleese the other day where he said he's so sick of doing the Monty Python stuff.
Yeah, because people ask.
And he's done so much since then, he says. And in fact, he's more proud of some of the stuff he's done recently because it's so much more pithy,
Like I hate it, like people come, oh, you're the comedian. I'm not the comedian. I write comedy and I do comedy sometimes, but I'm not the comedian. Billy was more of the comedian, but he also didn't do stand-up comedy or anything. He was a comedy actor, but also a straight actor, a very serious actor. I mean, I still get guys saying, in Heel Against the Head, I wear these Y-front underpants with the South African flag.
I remember.
Yeah. And I say, I support my country supports me. Yeah. So I still get guys, in a shopping mall, hey, I support my country supports me. And people looking, what? And then I have to explain to them because one forgets that was like 95. So how many years ago is that? We're coming up for 30 years. 2 years' time, it'll be 30 years ago that we did Heel Against the Head, It's crazy.
Well, listen, time flies. You mentioned this movie and COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, COVID was bloody hard on everyone in entertainment in this country. I think a lot of people lost not only their confidence, they lost a ton of money.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them lost their livelihoods completely.
Yeah. I wrote 3 plays. I got no money during COVID. So 2.5 years.
You were productive, but
I was right. Yeah, so I had 4 plays lined up at the end of COVID to start. I mean, I've still got plays lined up from.
But how did you survive?
Oh, God, it's a long story. My wife is a sculptor, and she makes his animals, his hares and cats and dogs, and so she just kept selling those during COVID because she could just courier them and stuff, So that kept us going. If it hadn't been for that, I think. Well, look, I had to sell my house. Fortunately, my daughter bought it. But it ruined so many people's lives, especially in our industry. I mean, I met great people who went onto Zoom. New York, I met actors and thespians and theater practitioners in New York and see 38 people on the screen, meet people I normally would never have met and exchanged ideas but there was no money there. It was just a whole new avenue.
And do you think it's coming back? Because people have been starved now for a while, and I think they're hungry for entertainment.
They are. And, you know, there are also connections. I made connections during COVID because as you're sitting in your own little cave, you know.
Nothing else to do, so you have to.
do. At least we had the internet and laptops and stuff like that, you know.
But you're probably the best person to ask this. There's no substitute for that relationship between a live audience and someone on a stage.
That's what I missed most. I was talking to someone the other day about this thing about live theater. You know, we made a movie of Palace, and it was a great movie, but it was harrowing to watch. Now, a play, the reaction between audience and the actors is amazing. I mean, there is a roadhouse at 2:00 in the morning, somewhere in the Boksburg, Benoni, Brakpan triangle, at 2 in the morning in 1982. And you are there. You can smell the burgers and stuff being cooked inside the
special,
roadhouse. Yeah, it's special. And this incident happens in front of them. I mean, I've warned the actors, they're going to get screams. I mean, they're going to get people yelling and shouting. I mean, the guys are shouting at me, come right, you know. And also, like the K word, it was used like 40, 50 times in the play. It was 1982.
And you're authentically putting that in.
It's exactly as it was.
You're not going to do what they're doing in America now and try to sanitize these things.
You can't. You see, if we sanitize Palace, which is a real incident at a roadhouse in 82, in the dark days of apartheid, then it's like saying, oh, these guys didn't swear at the black guys.
It wasn't as bad as
they said it was. So you have to have it warts and all. If you don't, then you really... Then what's the point of doing it?
I'm so pleased you're doing that because there are many people who, just to avoid controversy, will clear out anything that's doesn't fit with the modern understanding of how the world works. And what they're doing is they're actually doing everyone who survived and those who didn't a huge disservice.
Yeah. Well, look, you can't be woke with Palace. There's no way. You can't.
Do you think those people will come?
Yeah, but I'm telling you, there's going to be a lot of moaning and groaning. I mean, like
you're ready for
Vince smokes on stage, okay? So he's had this whole thing about, oh, can he light up? I know in England and Germany, for example, you're not allowed to. They say no, you just cut all smoking from the play. So I said, look, if you're doing a play that is you want to be historically correct, the guy lights up. He takes his unfiltered smoke, he lights.
Absolutely.
So if you want, I call them vegetarian cigarettes. You know, those they haven't got nicotine in them. They've got. I don't know what they are.
I don't know. It sounds like horrible,
but you know,
nasty shit.
You buy that, you can buy them. They're cigarettes that haven't got...
They make the smoke.
Yes, they
because
make
you
the
need
smoke.
The visual stuff for your show, right?
Yeah. So you can buy those.
So they're using those or they're using the real?
Yeah, they're using those.
Okay.
I call them vegetarians.
Is that because they now got smoke alarms all over the place?
No, that's because people are... for the non-smokers there's a lot of non-smokers. You know, people don't smoke anymore.
You know, my parents still smoke. They smoked the whole way through my childhood.
Yeah, so.
I'm okay.
Yeah,
I think we've become so sensitive. We've gone like to the other extreme, where now we've got these people who can't even see a show and make a distinction between, first of all, fiction and non-fiction. Second of all, the past and the present.
Yeah. And it's not as if there's like 25 guys on the stage smoking. It's one little cigarette. It gets smoked for about 3 minutes and then gets put out. But anyway,
you have to waste your time thinking about this.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. So let's just tell people, because the play Saturday night at the Palace will once again grace the Gauteng stage. It's 41 years after the debut. Back in 1982. It's going to be at the Joburg Theatre, 28th of July to 28th August. So for a whole month, but book now because this is going to sell out. So Saturday night at the Palace going to have the same impact, I'm sure, as it did back in the 1980s, because it caused trouble for you then.
Look, trouble. You see, the nation went crazy for it because it starts off with comedy, like I love to do with my plays. These two guys arrive in the night. They've been at a party. There's been a lot of booze, and it's very funny for about half an hour, 40 minutes. It's very, very funny, and then we see South Africa. South Africa, 1982. And we traveled the world with it. We went to Sweden, we went to Ireland, we went to Old Vic in London. So it was impactful wherever we played. And it was part of our lives for 4 years. And then we made the movie, of course, you know. So
I mean, it's amazing that you decided to set it in the East Rand, because the East Rand's provided quite a lot of talent from this country. We've got a princess in Monaco. We've got a an award-winning actress in Hollywood.
Yeah, and remember Bernaldus Niemand?
There's tons of people who've come
James
out
Phillips.
of there.
Yeah,
It actually seems to be a place of
great,
unique talent.
The cherry-faced lurchers. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So when you put something like this together, do you ever think about legacy? And I don't mean putting something on that you wrote back in 1981, 82, but I mean the whole catalog of your work. Yeah. Do you think about legacy when you're writing it? Obviously not.
Not too much, but funny enough, I've just finished. I lost a lot of Making Like America that we did in '86. Marius Veyes, myself, Nicky Ribello, and Lida Maiden. And it was a play about a guy setting up a robbery. It was a kind of almost like a Stander type thing around the time of Stander or before. And it's a great play about the robbery that goes wrong and the cops outside. And it's and I've always I thought I've got to publish this play. I've got to get it together. And so I've just finished. I want to bring it back again.
Yes.
Because it's so South African. It's so, the mother comes out the back and the cops are outside. She says, is it Mandela? Is it Mandela? I think Mandela's, broken out of prison. So there's so many things about the play that are historically amusing, but also pertinent. And I'd like those things to live. I'd like someone down the years to do that and say, listen, this is what we were. This is South Africa. We have a history. It's been so in that respect, I'd like the players to live. So I'm not looking at a legacy as such, but I need, I think Adam Small said to know the future or to know where we are, you have to know the past. You have to know the past to know where we are now and also where we're going in the future.
Which again is one of the reasons I get irritated when I see people trying to rewrite history or trying to sanitize it or make it fluffy and inviting, is that they very often are the same people who've never read a history book.
Yeah.
They haven't picked up any kind of historical knowledge along the way. And if you don't know that stuff, you can't really know where you are now.
Absolutely. And also what happened, why, what was it like? You need to know. The kids today don't know. Often I do a kind of a masterclass in storytelling and I talk about my history. And while I'm telling them, helping screenwriters now, how do you write a good screenplay? How do you write a good play? So I give a class and I'm amazed how little kids today know about what the past was like, what happened, what was apartheid, what was it like, and the players to show it, and it's important, I think.
There's never you don't get writer's block. You don't sometimes sit there and go, I don't have any material. Where do you get your ideas?
Look, I get, I'm over it now. I used to get worried about it in the past, but you hit the wall all the time. Now I just leave it, move to something else. And then it comes back again very quickly.
So you have like a bunch of projects going at once.
I've always got a whole bunch of stuff. I've got a movie going or a play, and then, but I don't stress anymore if I hit the wall because I know it's going to come back. Because I've had so many years. I've written 38 plays and about 15 movies. So
it's unbelievable. It's quite something. I mean, some people write one good one in their life. There's this interesting comparison. I think Malcolm Gladwell made it between. For example, he chose Leonard Cohen and Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan wrote hundreds and hundreds of songs, of which a few of them obviously became massive, massive hits. But he never titivated and reworked and thought about this again and rearranged the instruments. And Leonard Cohen wrote Hallelujah. He worked on that thing for like 40 years and was never happy with it.
Wow.
I mean, you're obviously more of a Bob Dylan. Picasso was the artist, and then I think he used Monet as the opposite.
Yeah,
or Cézanne.
No, I just write. I mean, I find a new story, not every day, but often I run into new stories, and I hear something or I pick up something, and then I think that's interesting, and then I might do some research and then follow
and
it
just
up.
Pours out of you.
Yeah. I mean, I was telling stories when I was 3.5 at the Modderfontein Dynamite Factory nursery school. They said Paul stood on a little box and he entertained the whole nursery school. And when we lived in Messina, I stood under the baobab tree and just improvised stories. So I've always this performing and storytelling has always been part of my life,
Have any of your kids inherited this?
My daughter, she teaches drama at St. John's. So
okay.
Yeah, she was interested in it. I'm glad she's teaching. She's got a great job and she teaches drama. She's a great teacher. And so it's like what I call a regular job. I mean, I always laugh, I say that Billy and I, when we did Heel Against the Head, that put my 3 kids through varsity. If it hadn't been for Heel, I mean, we were playing to 1,000 people a night at the Civic.
Jesus, that's
for
incredible.
4 weeks on the trot, toured the whole country. And then after that, it went down again, down to our bones of our arse again. But so that's the business, It's when you freelance in theatre, it's up and it's down, and it's up and it's down. But I mean, I'd never have changed it for anything. I mean, I've had such a ball, And the stories, I mean, that's why I've got to finish this book. I was going to write one called Flying with Flynn, just our 40 years. I mean, there's enough to fill 3 books.
Absolutely. No, but I like also the fact that you'll include stuff of, your fathers and your mothers and things like that, because I was talking to Peter Dirk Ace a little while ago, who, just like you, is an absolute legend in South Africa. And he was telling me, and I don't think he's told too many stories about his own parents and his mother and the piano and, his friendship with Sophia Loren, which is something I think a lot of people don't know about. Yeah. It's fascinating to hear these things because it gives us a more complete picture of the person. Yeah. And all these characters you've played does muddy the water a little bit when it comes to you, because we're like, who's Paul really? Because we think you're this amalgamation of all of them.
It's crazy, you got all these things, like when we played at the Old Vic, for example, they had a sort of a past and present party, and they had a party for all the people who were working on the West End at that time. And there was Christopher Reeves, our Superman. He was there with John Gielgud and
my God,
Glenda Jackson.
You're talking about
all of the legends, and
luminaries.
There was before Christopher Reeves had his accident. Superman. Obviously everyone knows.
Sure.
And he had a bald patch at the back. I said, geez, Superman's bald. Now people don't know that. Of course, when you're in the movies, they wear these hair pieces and stuff.
Cover it up.
Bald. And things like that public don't kind of know that, that this actor, everyone thinks, oh, he always looks great, but he's actually got a bald patch at the back of it. So these funny things that come up, in the course of your life. And there's Billy and I pinching ourselves. We're playing, and there's the Royal Box at in the Old Vic. And there's the Prince, and who's that? Princess so-and-so come to watch the play. And it's all like part of, and here we're doing Brakpan, Benoni, Boksburg.
But isn't that cool? I mean, those are, someone once said to me that at the end of it all, you've only got the memories. Yeah. And you'll hope that they'll flash through in a really nice slideshow before you go, and it better be bloody interesting, right?
Yeah,
and you've got enough slides in there. And you think of some people, and I feel very sorry for some people because their lives may never be as exciting as just a week in your life. But when you look back and you take stock and you're actually grateful for the things that you've done and seen, you must have some incredible interactions with people and stories stored up in your head.
Yeah.
Even ones that you've never told.
Connections. Look, I mean, one has to be also realistic. I mean, South Africa is this is not Hollywood or being a big star in England. I mean, I always think that if Billy and I had the same kind of career in the States or in England or anywhere else, we'd be doing fine. We did not really, we wouldn't be, because our industry here is really small, and we kind of realized that when we toured overseas. You get to places like Copenhagen or something, you see the theaters where people are arriving by the train load, and the profile is so much higher, and the people are so much more part of elite's the wrong word, but you're in a different stratosphere,
they're not in survival mode. And they have time to consider culture, entertainment in a serious way.
It's really respected right across, at least there's a big enough audience for it, In South Africa, you're kind of all scraping the barrel. And
do you think that's got better or worse?
Look, there's a lot of, like, television now sort of, it's just blowing up, like Showmax and Netflix and all of these, like, that's why I do a lot of these workshops, because the hungry monster of television will never end. And it's that field is growing. When we were sort of starting out, and for many, many years, we struggled because television, you get 1 or 2 gigs on television. Now that is opening up at Amazon now. So South African writers and actors can be seen worldwide. People go on to what internet has done and everything. Yeah. So I think it's opening up. Theatre is always going to have a bit of a problem because you have to go there, buy your ticket and go and sit there, be live. But there's still nothing to beat that live experience. I mean, you get such a vibe. Even seeing a musical, seeing it live is much better than watching it on your laptop, you know.
Definitely.
It's unforgettable experiences you have. So theatre, the live experience can never be matched. And, you know, when people say theatre's dying, it can never die, because you always hunger for that connection between the actors on stage and the audience. Something happens, you know, there's a two-way communication.
And whenever you used to go and perform overseas, and you did a lot of these, you did, you know, you did Sweden, Denmark, the Middle East, Australia, France, Germany, the US, UK, you went all over the place. Did you have to tailor any of that to the audience, or did you just hope they'd get it, or did they just get it?
Look, people see, like you might be in Chicago and see a Polish play, you know, and Americans are going to see it. So it's,
I mean, people all over the world's seen what Dostoevsky wrote.
Yeah, we'll see.
They might not be miserable Russians, but they get it.
Yeah, you'll see different languages.
Sure.
You know, in Sweden, we thought, when we took Palace to Sweden, we thought, these guys, they're not going to know what to say. But a lot of them speak English, and they followed the play. So, you know, it's interesting. I mean, I haven't been to Australia. My plays have been there. When my plays have been, like, I haven't been to the Middle East either.
I've heard you're not missing anything.
People have done people have done my plays there.
Okay,
but I've been to like UK and France and America. Yeah.
Do you? Is there any way you still want to go? Is there anywhere that, like, you've got a burning ambition to either be on stage in that country, or?
I said I've got to play New York. I've got to play New York, and that's like quite funny. Like, but that's what I want to do, because I played London, and I played Munich and Copenhagen and places, but I want to play London. I mean, I want to play New York, because kind of New York for me is like a center of the universe. I mean, I love the city. It's just,
it is, though.
Yeah, I've been there a few times, and it's like you could see an alien on Broadway walking down the street,
and no one would bat
an eyelid.
You know, it's interesting. I mean, you never know who's listening. There might be some New York agent who's currently looking for someone to put something on, but. Yeah. It's an energy thing, isn't it?
Yes.
Like, there's just such an energy in that place, and everyone wants to be a star. Everyone wants to be noticed.
But also the mixture, the people, it's every kind of human and non-human thing.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's like it's a melting pot of the world, you know. That's what I love, you know, when Trump goes on about can't let immigrants in. I mean, America, that's just immigrants. They are just immigrants. You know, that's what makes it so special, that you can suddenly feel.
Absolutely.
You know, the Italian side of New York, where you can still be Italian, but yet be American, you know.
So the return of Elvis Dupisani was the play that won more awards than any other play in the history of South African theatre.
Yeah, we just rattled them off.
That's bloody amazing. I mean, what do you think it was about that story?
Well, we just exploded. We're like a tsunami across the nation. Look, no one had ever seen a play like that before. I mean, it's funny, you know, Ethel was doing Master Harold and the Boys and great plays and stuff, but they were very, like, what Palace was, like, a visceral experience. I mean, a lot of people, I mean, I laugh. Some people said, a lot of people left for Australia after seeing the play because they didn't want to live in a country like this.
Sure.
I mean, we used to have security police coming. You know, by the time the government woke up to what the play was doing, 20,000 people had already seen it. So it became, people said, have you seen this play? And that happens not once in a lifetime, once every generation. You have a play that people say, hey, have you seen this? If you haven't seen it, then you haven't lived, kind of story. And that's what Palace was like. And I think it was because it was I mean, we used to have people arriving at the theater saying, where's the screen? Where's the screen? We said, there's no screen. What do you mean? Where's the screen?
Because they'd never seen a play before.
They'd never seen a play. So now people are going to come here. What's that thing on the stage? That's a roadhouse. A motorbike's coming on this stage, and you're going to see people. They couldn't believe. So that's what was happening. People who'd never ever been inside a theater before.
I mean, that's also a hell of an accolade, hey, to bring those people in.
Yeah, and
to show them what could be done on a stage,
and also give them that experience. And that's, you see, you don't find people in a movie house going, "Come right, man." But when I had guys with tomahawks in the audience, when Vince starts getting heavy with September, you know, at 2:00 in the morning, and there's only Forsey there to help him. audience members wanting to jump out of their seats and blitzen me. They wanted to jump up and beat him up, beat the character up. And then also in Bloemfontein, when the rector of the University of the Free State brought his lecturers, and full house, we played 4 weeks in Bloem, sold out every night, 500-seater, because people had heard about this play. And in the middle of the performance, this rector stands up saying, "Lions, lies, to take these people away." They wanted to ban us, and 40 of his colleagues were up and they stormed out of the theater, and the rest of the audience stayed to the end of the play.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, these experiences as a performer, it's a movie. It happens on a movie screen. The actors don't know what's happening. But when it's live and you're on this knife edge, what's going to happen now? And you hear this rector of university screaming at the top of his lungs. You realize how you've affected someone. And they say, can theater change people's lives?
Oh, definitely.
Well, there's an example.
Oh, yeah.
And screaming. Because this was 1983 when we were in Bloem, okay? So now in the dark days of apartheid, everything's lovely. The blacks have their place, the whites have their place. The country is fine. See this play. This is what's happening at 2:00 in the morning.
Did you ever feel like you might have got yourself into too much trouble?
Yeah. Peter Dirk has always said to me, you are so lucky you did not write this play in Afrikaans, because it would have been taken off on the first night.
Really?
They'd have walked in there next day and said, off. Ooh, sorry, bang your mic. Off the stage, off, finish. They'd have closed it. But because we're
in English,
so English guys, it kind of slipped under the radar. And by the time they woke up, 20,000 people, as I said, already.
Because you could very well have gone to jail. Hey?
Yeah, no.
This was a very serious thing. People, again, because they don't read history. I mean, at that time, you would have been locked up.
Yeah.
You would have been considered a terrorist just for putting on a play.
Yeah. And saying what we were saying in the stage. Like some guys said, this doesn't happen. We had people coming, afterwards in the foyer, we beat them in the bar downstairs because you was in for a dope after a beer.
Sure.
People saying, no, man. Some people saying that this doesn't happen. I say, what do you mean it doesn't happen? I've sucked this out of my thumb. You go to a roadhouse at 2:00 in the morning in Springs and have a look.
See what happens.
See what's happening. Because I played soccer for Isco van der Bijl when I was at school. I had a mate who lived in Van der Bijl, and during the holidays I'd go and play. And we'd go to the roadhouse afterwards and see this on a nightly basis. I mean, that's where the play came from my real experiences of seeing things.
Tell me about what Joburg was like in the 70s and 80s, because I've heard stories from people who are much older than me about the Lebs and the Greeks and the Poras and the Jews, and everybody was there were these power factions, especially among young guys.
Yeah.
They were all vying for the girls' attention. I mean, what kind of a world was Joburg then, from your memory?
I was a bit young still at that time. The DuckTales were kind of like before me. Yeah, there were DuckTales.
So what were the DuckTales?
Yeah, they were crazy. I mean, when I was 12, there were DuckTales around. I was a bit older, then they'd kind of moved on already. But when I played in Witbank, I used to play soccer as an under 12. And I remember this Portuguese guy coming, they'd call him Porra, and and then he combed his hair with a little ducktail at the back and had these stovepipes, almost like those Chelsea boot type things,
right.
Pointed boots,
Yes.
And it was crazy times. And I think that came about, a lot of the fathers were in the war, okay? And then they had no youth because they went off to war at age 18,
right.
19. So their sons wearing tight jeans or tight trousers or stovies and stuff, they'd make them burn their trousers and that you can't wear them. So there's a jealousy between fathers and sons.
Sure.
And that's what gave rise, I think, to those kind of wild days, and those characters. But
it must have been, to even catch the tail end of it, which you seem to have done.
And there were those things, the Poros and the Lebs and the Aitais and the
the south of Joburg still has a reputation from those days.
Yeah.
It doesn't earn or deserve it anymore.
No.
Everything's very, very cosmopolitan now.
You see things, but also things have changed. There's much more integration now.
Oh.
But racism still exists, and that's why Palace is so important. Racism is still out there.
Yeah.
On a hectic scale.
And anyone who pretends it isn't. But it is easier now to be different, and it is easier now to integrate into things. And in those days, you just didn't see these people mixing.
No, except if you're in the States. I'm telling you, in the States right now is hectic.
Yeah.
This MAGA universe they're going back to beyond apartheid. It's beyond apartheid now. What's happening in Georgia? So? Oh, yeah, it's hectic. I mean, these MAGA Republicans trying to homophobia and so it's rampant. Racism, it's rampant. So America's in a bad place.
Did you ever experience post 1994 any feeling that you were maybe sidelined because you were white?
Yeah, not
because I mean,
so much.
let's not. I mean, I think a lot of your success was before, and a lot of it was after. So you're probably in a good position to be able to gauge this. But certainly, arts and culture have kind of fallen off the priority list for this government.
Yeah, look, they did before as well. The Nats didn't care.
They hated arts and culture. Yeah, unless it was like very conservative Afrikaans stuff, right?
They loved it when you did Shakespeare and all that sort of stuff, and
but not Othello.
Yeah.
Not Othello.
Yeah, you never found. Yeah, there was very few Othellos in those days. Well, also you couldn't. You had to have a white Othello painted black.
Oh, really?
That's the only way they could do that. But,
madness.
Yeah. It was crazy in those days. I mean, the hoops that we had to go through to put stuff on. And
So I suppose it is easier to use a vegetable cigarette now.
Yeah.
And have to put up with that nonsense that you did then.
Yeah.
But after 94, obviously, there was a Ministry of Arts and Culture was supposed to have been, something that promoted South African art, music, theatre. And I think theatre in this country has had a very, very tough time.
And the sad thing is they don't realize that art and culture and stuff, that's what you start off with. That's your springboard to everything else.
That's how you measure a civilization.
Yeah, that's right. And hear the stories and because the stories tell you where you come from, where you are, where you're going. That's what stories do. And I don't think they realize that. They think it's fun.
When they meet someone like you, I think they first of all think of all the characters that you played, and perhaps they laugh, or perhaps they smile, or perhaps they cry. Who knows?
Yeah.
But you definitely have an effect on people. But the other thing is that they probably imagine that you spend all your time around, other people in theatre, which isn't necessarily true.
No,
that's your work.
Yeah.
What sort of stuff do you do to relax? Because you're an entertainer. When we're relaxing, we watch you.
I do.
What do you do when you're relaxing?
I do what everyone else does.
Watch sport.
I've always liked sport, but I do. This. Yeah, it's a normal kind of existence, Even though I'm often writing a lot of the time, I spend a lot of the day writing, but spend weekends with family and stuff. It's just a gig that I like doing. It's like I could never have been in an office or been a production engineer, or I think of my dad's life in that. I could never handle doing that schedule maintenance and work, telling people how they do the products.
Yeah.
I'm a storyteller. I like people. I like hearing stories and sharing stories and.
And are you friends with a lot of people that you've worked with over the years? You stay in contact with them?
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's a project, and then when the project's over, you don't see each other anymore.
Yeah, look, in and out of the industry, I'm friends with people in and out, right across the board. Look, when you're doing a play, it becomes a family for that period of time. It's always the thing about you become a family, and it's sometimes the final night, like Fordsburg's Finest last year at Monte Casino, our final performance, me and Chimende, she's a Zimbabwean, she's a brilliant actress. It was just just the two of us. And on the final night, audience standing ovation, and we just hugged each other and just burst into tears. And we were both howling like babies. And the audience is going, because we knew this is it. It's over. We've done this whole long thing together every night. And, we're each other's buddies. We hold each other because two of us on stage, something goes wrong, other one's got to bail the other one out. So you become very, very close. And that's the great thing, too, about theatre. It's like you create families every time you do a show,
You're the kind of person who can do improv as much as you can do scripted stuff.
Yeah.
Is there a preference? As a performer now, not as a writer? Obviously, if you're a writer, you want people to follow your bloody script. Otherwise, why go to the trouble of writing?
No, look, I don't like improv. Things have. Fordsburg's Finest opening night in Cape Town at the Theatre on the Bay. Where she's on stage alone, and there's my brother phones. He's coming down, a racist brother. He's coming down to beat up the blacks at this thing. She's this black woman on stage, in the it was a used car lot. She's in the office, and my brother's phoning to come. He's coming, and on opening night, because the guy had mixed the memory sticks, the voice didn't come on the call. So the phone rang, and suddenly it was dead. And she's waiting. So where's the fucking phone call? And I'm off stage. If there's no phone call, the play ends. There has to be the phone call because the play can't move.
So what happens?
So I'm standing there going, it's the end of the play. And it's not even halfway through. So I just came on. And I said, I've just been down at the corner Greek. My butt was there. He came in, he's coming. So I had to do this whole, I had to tell a whole story to say this guy is coming, so we better get you out of here. So I was able to put the play back on the rails.
Oh my God.
But I tell you.
And the audience had no idea.
Had no idea. But I'm shaking like a leaf. And she's looking at me going, ah. And this is the joy actually of live stuff, because you have to think on your feet, you know. It's like, this
but you love it. I can tell you love it.
Yeah,
you said before we started this conversation that you're enjoying it now, just like you enjoyed it at the beginning.
Yeah.
That's so important, right?
And you know, the funny thing is, you know, every time I go on stage, almost like every night I go, because Billy and I, whenever we perform together, we should stand in the wings and go, we're going to gooi, we're going to gooi, we're going to gooi, we're going to gooi. And we did that every night. So now my ritual, since Billy has died, I stand in the wings and go, we're going to gooi, we're going to gooi. So I always kind of like, my Billy's my like patron saint, if you like. And I always remember in the wings. So that night when that was happening, and I thought, the play is ending now. But it's like your death, you know, when they say before you die, your life flashes before you. I'm going, the play is over. The crits are going to say its thing. No one's going to come in Cape Town. It was a complete weird thing. And I almost felt this hand on my back shoving me on stage. It was like Billy was in the wings going, get on stage, man. Get on. Like, because I normally wouldn't get on. But I almost like felt a push. So, and there I'm on stage. It's like Billy had pushed me on stage. It was weird. It's a weird kind of experience, but I really kind of felt that. Billy said, get on there.
A lot of actors and producers and directors and people who work in stage and screen stuff say that those places, those theaters, if you're going to choose a place to be haunted, that's a good place.
Yeah, no, the ghosts.
The Phantom of the Opera. But it's because there's so many people who've poured out their heart and soul on those stages.
Yeah.
And if you were an actor and you died, you would want to come back and haunt a theater.
Yeah. I mean, listen, that's why I still work at the Market Theatre a lot. A lot of people say, oh, geez, that part of town. And then,
I know.
So go in the daytime, go on a Sunday afternoon, 3 o'clock, no problem. And I've tried to convince them now to have Saturday matinees too. So you have a Saturday matinee at 2 and another one at 5 and do the same on Sunday. That's 4 shows you can take care of during the day. Because I know a lot of people say, a lot of my fans, so-called fans, or people say, come and see my plays. Oh, you're at the Market. Oh, I don't go into town anymore. No. They must make a plan and make people go. But I'll go into the Market every night. I go into that hallway, that pub around the corner there. There's this big archway, which is biggest archway in the Southern Hemisphere, and I walk into that thing. I feel the ghosts. I kind of like, I sense them. Barney, Billy, Ramalau, you know, all of these guys. I'm thinking, geez, I sense these. And there's a kind of a presence. I don't believe in ghosts or anything, but I have that sense that they're kind of still there. If they're anywhere, they're going to be there, you know.
That's very special.
It is very
That's
special.
actually goosebump stuff.
Yeah.
Listen, I can't think of a better place to draw this to a close. You've got work to do. I don't want to keep you here for longer than I promised we'd keep you here, and I think I've already broken my promise. Saturday night at the Palace is from the 28th of July to the 28th of August. Go and watch the show. It's absolutely awesome. Paul has been working on this for 41 years, and it's back. I mean, he put it on a long time ago, but it's back.
It's back.
So thank you so much, man. What an absolute pleasure to spend time with you.
Thank you, Gareth. It's been great.
It's really good to see you, and best of luck with this and all the other things that you're still going to be doing.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you, sir.